Welcome to this week, and let me tell you what a week it has been. It's fantastic to be here again with you guys on a Sunday afternoon or a morning, I suppose, if you're Scott over there on Vancouver time. On a Sunday afternoon and or a morning, I suppose, if you're Scott over there. Give me a second here. We got a tab. I have the live stream in another tab because that gave me access to the poll, which I put into the chat today. Poll wise, I was asking you guys the simple question: did you make money on Tesla this week? I certainly did, and we're going to talk about Tesla in a bit. That's, of course, if you've seen the title of the stream, Tesla's in there. So we're definitely going to be talking a little bit about Tesla. We got other news. Before we do that, though, let's take a look. We got a few early birds already popping into chat. Jill is here. She's saying, hello, everybody. And we got Paul Santori. Hello, looking forward to today's stream. Yeah, me too. And I'm in it. And then we've got Scott saying, hello, everybody. And Mr. Red Tacos in the house. And why did Elon sell Tesla? To get to the other side. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about Elon momentarily. Jordan's in the house. Hello, Candace and all of chat fam. Thanks for the gift sub. Yes, absolutely. Once a month, we're gonna gift a sub to somebody in the community. We did it for the first time last week, so I wanted to gift two. So Allison and Jordan got one. In the middle, we accidentally gifted myself, and that was very, very funny. Phoenix 2985 is in the house. I am excited for the live session. Thank you. And that was supposed to be a question. I know. We're gonna get to Elon. That's actually the first story. But that's coming up here in just a moment. And Hockey Nut says howdy. All right, and I'm also just sending a quick hello to all you people watching on the replay because I don't want to forget about you guys. You guys make up about 75% of all the people who watch it. So definitely thank you for being here or being in the replay, wherever that may be. All right. Let's jump right into our first story. But actually, just quickly, I want to just say hello to Dominique. Great to see you. Oh, and I almost missed Amanda. Hi, Amanda. Great to see you as well. And she's saying, great job, Jill. So she's definitely a fan of Jill's new thing. And, oh, what's this? Well, happy late news present to yourself. Awesome. All right. Now, so Tesla last week had what could only be called an amazing week. Their stock was up 33% in trading over the last 5 days. So this for Tesla was actually their best week since all the way back in May of 2013. Now, part of what helped this was, of course, their earnings. So their earnings came out. They had a record quarterly revenue, and they had better than expected earnings, which was really good for Tesla. Now, Elon also said during this meeting that they are on target to produce 2 million cars in 2023. So people are excited, and this got a lot of people excited about Tesla, which is great. And this is where the money comes in. Here's the funny thing. We have 3 ways that we could have made money on this. At least three that pop into my mind. 1, if you're invested in Tesla. 2, if you're invested in the Tesla CDR. Or, and this is the way I made money, I'm invested in that new purpose ETF. So the Tesla high yield. So that's YTSL. So here's what happened. As you guys know, for my day job, I do day trading. So I was looking at the Tesla report that was going to come out on earnings day, and I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow is also the ex-dividend day for that purpose yield. So I decided to put a little bit of money in it just to sit there to do a dividend capture. I was actually expecting that I might be stuck in it for, the rest of the day to finally get out. So I wasn't expecting Tesla to have such an incredible night. So I bought some shares. I sat on them overnight. And in the morning, holy banana bread, I bought them at $18.18. And when I got up in the morning, they were up around $19.50. So because my name was already on record at the beginning of opening on ex-dividend day, I was free to sell them. So I sold them. I made almost $1,000. And in addition to that, February 7th, so probably I won't actually receive it till February 8th, I'm going to get that nice 17% dividend on that as well. So that's going to be another couple $100 that's just going to drop in. So that's what I did. Oh, quick little move, made some money. And it's amazing because I was not anticipating making as much as I did. So of course, I kind of kicked myself that I didn't go in a little bit deeper on that, because there was definitely opportunity there, but I kind of missed on that. So, but I'm glad I made some money, which is really good. Now, let's see. So Hockey Nut saying, so glad he didn't sell Tesla. And it looks like Hockey Nuts made some money. I know Scott made some money, which is really interesting because over on Scott's channel, on his live stream, I was in his chat, and I was even telling him last week that, you know what, this is a great ETF. You should you should grab some of it, and he did, and he's made some money, and I am happy about that. Hockey Nuts up about 12%. So this is kind of neat. It's kind of rare that we run into these opportunities like this where we can just get in there, hit hard, make some money. Holy banana bread. That was just amazing. So that's kind of that whole thing. We also got our Sapper in the house. Hello, our Sapper, and Bleak is in the house. Hey, Bleak, good to see you. Always love to see Bleak. Well, I always love to see all of you guys because you guys are awesome. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with Tesla. Now, was it Hockey Nut who mentioned something about Elon selling more shares? I did not know that he had sold any more shares. So this must be pretty breaking news if he did. That's not a good thing. That might mean that some of these profits, if you haven't sold and taken profits off the table, they might sort of come down a little bit if that sort of spooks investors a little bit if Elon's selling again. But double check that. I haven't seen that yet. But I was it Hockey Nut or no? It was Mr. Red Taco. So I think Mr. Red Taco, was on some news, and he said late news present to yourself. So let's hope he hasn't sold too much. But if he has, it might mean that it comes down a little bit. But if you're holding on to that ETF, volatility when the market is down is actually one of those things that makes covered calls make a lot of money. So that kind of ensures that you're going to be getting some dividends. The areas where you don't want is if you have the market down with very little volatility, then they're not making as much money with them covered calls. That's where you might find a situation where they cut the dividend a little bit, sort of like some of the stuff that's happened with the BTCY or the ETH. But crypto, and we're going to talk a little bit about crypto later. Crypto is looking a little bit better, which is good. All right, let's move on to our next news story. And as you know, in the title, I mentioned something about rent as well. So I got some renting news. So it's really interesting. They've come out with the national vacancy rate, and they said it came in at 1.9%. That's the tightest. Basically, we're in the tightest rental market since 2001. So that's not pretty good. Now, the average rent of a 2-bedroom has rose in the last year by 5.6%, and that's huge. And I think actually it's probably bigger than that. That might be a month figure. They didn't actually specify because I've got some other data here too. We're going to get to in 2 seconds. And here's a really interesting thing. If you're looking for the cheapest rent, so there's a list of 10 cities that have the cheapest rent. 9 of the 10 of them are in Quebec. So the cheapest average rent comes from Trois-Rivières, and I think I probably said that wrong, but Trois-Rivières has an average rent of $676. That is amazing. Montreal is also on that list. So Montreal, the rent's about $1,000 cheaper than Toronto. Now, talking about rent rises, and this is going to be kind of cool. We have had a lot of rent. The rent's gone up quite a bit in Canada. Now, where do you think it's gone up the most? I'll give you guys a second to take a guess. Which city do you think has seen the biggest rent increase in 2022? Because I've got some of the cities here for us. So we're gonna start. Oh, thank you, Dominique. That's always good. So Dominique said my French was good. I like that. And we got Jay Borg coming in. Hi, Jay. Good to see you. All right, so we're going to do this in two different categories. So if we look at the big cities only, like the really big, Vancouver came in third. So Vancouver had an increase of 21.2%. Winnipeg, I'm not sure what the Winnipeg rent was. They're not considered one of the big cities. I think they're considered a mid-market. But I'll give you a hint. It's probably the biggest city in Canada. YYC probably was up. So yeah, so like I said, Vancouver was up 21.2%. So I'll tell you guys, it's Toronto. So Toronto came in 22.7%, followed by Calgary at 22.6%, Vancouver at 21.2%, then Ottawa at 14.5%, Edmonton at 11.5%, and at the bottom of the list of the big cities is Montreal at 6.6%. So, if you speak, if you have enough French to get by and you want to live in a big city with affordable rents, you may want to think of Montreal. Now, mid-markets, those are the smaller cities. I've got the top 3 in the mid-markets, and they blow away even the big cities. So the biggest rent increase, Kitchener, 31.4% over the last year, followed by Halifax at 31.3%, and then London, Ontario, they had a 30.2% hike. Holy banana! That's a lot. That's a lot of rent in just 1 year. And I know, well, I'm from Halifax, and I know that rents there are almost starting to look like Toronto. It's like, holy cow. And the wages are not great in that part of the country. So I don't know how people are affording to be able to pay rent. So it's kind of interesting. And here, Red Sackberg got it at the last second, got the Toronto. And a lot of these Oluses have rental caps. Well, unless you live in Alberta, which they do not. Yeah. And even then, a lot of what's happening, though, is once they get rid of you, then they can look at renovating it and get around. There's a lot of different loopholes if you want to really raise the rents pretty high. So that does happen. Dominique says, yes, but the salaries are a bit lower and we're the most taxed in Canada. Okay, that makes sense. I think she's talking about Quebec. So that's one of those things. If you've got lower salaries, and it's the same thing in the Maritimes. The running joke in the Maritimes when I used to live in Nova Scotia is that they kept the wages so low so people couldn't afford to move out of the province. So that used to be kind of the running joke in there. Phoenix says, move to Alberta, smaller cities like Medicine Hat. Yeah, absolutely. Medicine Hat. The prairies are pretty affordable too as well. Brian McGrath says, morning all. Good morning, Brian. Great to see you in here. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there if you want cheaper rents. City-wise, Alberta, I do love Alberta. I lived in Calgary for a while, and it was definitely, other than the cold, the winter, but with Alberta, you had Chinook, so that was never so bad. But if I think I wanted to move out west, I probably would choose the prairies. Just maybe not Alberta, but close to Alberta. So something like a Saskatoon or something of that nature. Now, Brian says, my plan was to return to Halifax now that I am retired, but it's not going to happen, which is sad because if you're from the Maritimes, you always have that craving that you want to go back. I imagine wherever you're from, you probably always have a craving to return home. Of course, then you do, and then you're there for a couple of months, and you're like, oh, this is just the same old thing. Why did I want to return here? It kind of works out that way. Because I know every time I've returned to the Maritimes, after a while, being there for a bit, I'm just like, oh, I want to move again. There's nothing here. There's no opportunities. Now, that may have changed since I've left. I don't know anymore, but it's that whole thing where you feel that calling. But I always say, and at least now, we're now kind of moving into a world where you can technically almost live anywhere, depending on what your job is, of course. But I know myself where I work entirely online, I could pretty much live anywhere, and it's not going to really affect things too much. All right, let's jump into another story. I do have a food story because that was the other part of our thing, but I'm going to hold that off on that one for a moment. I want to talk a tiny bit about AI. So OpenAI, that's the company, of course, responsible for ChatGPT. And you guys all heard, and we talked a little bit about it last week, how Microsoft has been pumping some money into them, like billions of dollars, because they're looking to have something similar to ChatGPT on all of their main products. So their Outlook, their Office, you name it. They're looking to have that there. And Bing, of course, because, I mean, does anybody even still know how to get to Bing? Well, Bing.com, but nobody uses Bing. So it's kind of one of those interesting things. But now this week, another company has come out, BuzzFeed. So BuzzFeed said that they want to use OpenAI tools to basically enhance their content. So whether that means they want ChatGPT or something similar to it, writing their articles or creating some of the lists, because they do a lot of lists over there on BuzzFeed. But nonetheless, the news of them saying this drove their share price up 200%. Wow. It's one of those things where you just wish you kind of knew what was about to happen, because it would have been great to have got some, drop some money on that before it happened. But, well, it's not a good thing. All right, and we're going to jump over to one more quick story here before we get back to the chat. The CRA. So the CRA, we've got an impending strike. So these guys are basically asking the wages that they're asking. It's close to $17,000 extra a year per employee. So we're not talking about a small wage increase that they're asking for. Now, the commissioner of the CRA, he basically this week told the House of Commons that running audits to recoup basically about $15.5 billion that was paid out to ineligible businesses through the whole wage subsidy program, he's saying it's not really worth our time to go after it. So that's kind of interesting. That comes off to me like he's saying, we're too busy planning a strike to try to get back that money that wasn't supposed to go out, that taxpayer money that wasn't supposed to go to some businesses who just applied anyway. Now, they didn't seem to have any problem going after individuals who, got CERB that weren't supposed to, or CWB or any of that. But when it comes to going after businesses, they're being a little bit hesitant on that. So, I always look at it this way. This is my philosophy on these supports. If you fraudulently went after support, you should be paying it back. No doubt about it. But if you're a situation like, I know there were situations like this where people would go into, let's say they go into social assistance or something, and they're like, oh, well, did you apply for the CERB? And some people were actually redirected back to the CERB who didn't qualify, but were told by other government agents. Those are the people who I'm like, we shouldn't be pulling the money back from people like that. But, anybody who did it fraudulently, yeah, absolutely. And that goes the same thing with businesses. I think government should have been, I know they wanted to get the supports out quickly, but there's getting things out quickly and then maybe just taking an extra couple of days to dot the I's and cross the T's before you get it out. I think people would have been fine with that. And if we could have avoided some of the chaos that happened with the pandemic and the supports, that would have been a good thing. So we'll have to see. Now, Brian McGrath says, I don't like where I am and I'm cold, but I pay $7.50, all utilities included. That's not too bad. Now, it's kind of interesting, too. Cold is one of those things where I know when I lived in the prairies, so when I lived in Calgary, cold wasn't that bad. I mean, it was cold, but because it's dry, it wasn't really that bad. But yet, anytime I returned to Halifax, because you got so much moisture in the air, it would just cut right through you. So I always found that cold to be much worse than the cold that you would experience on the prairies. Jill says, unless you move to Victoria and love the fact that there isn't any snow. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind snow so much, but once again, I work from home. So snow is kind of relative. It's like, oh, it's snowing out today. Okay, I'm just not going to go outside. I don't have to. But that's kind of one of them interesting things. Mr. Red Taco says, but it's like, but it's not like it was his money. It's everyone's money. And that's the whole thing. It's like, if you want a big raise, 17,000 a year that the CRA is asking for, if anything, do your job well so that you can at least try to justify it. Where you're saying, oh, we just don't think it's worth our time. To me, that's not doing your job well. That's kind of like passing the buck. So if it were a situation, now here's where that would make sense. If the CRA was like, okay, well, to recover 15.5 billion, it's probably going to cost us 20 billion. Well, in a case like that, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. But to sort of say, oh, it's just not worth our effort, that doesn't, to me, that's like, that just sounds kind of lazy. That's what I find. Mr. Red Taco says, I found visiting places like BC where it's humid, I found I got sick more often after moving to the prairies. That's interesting. Well, that's the thing too. If you get used to having all that moisture in there, a lot of times if you move to places like the prairies, everything is so dry that you start to have different issues. I've known of people who've got nosebleeds, things like that, just because everything gets dried out. All of their mucous membranes get dried out and everything else. So that's one of those things. But I think once you get used to it, your body adapts, which is kind of good. All right, that was the CRA. I do have another story here on, we're going to get to the food momentarily. Manulife Financial. Manulife Financial, definitely, I think a lot of us love that stock. Well, now they're actually partnering with Cleveland Clinic Canada to provide health services to basically about 5 million benefit holders in Canada. And this is kind of, give you an idea. Cleveland Clinic Canada is a private health facility. So they're looking at being able to get around the fact that our health system is slammed to try to get some of their people into the Cleveland Clinic. And their thoughts are this is going to help with the overall backlog in healthcare at the same time. Now, some people are saying, well, if you start doing and putting more and more emphasis on these private clinics, you're going to see more doctors in the public healthcare system start moving to the private healthcare system because there'll be the dollars there and there'll be the demand on that side. And that could make things a little bit worse. But we'll have to see. We're at a situation right now where 1 in 5 Canadians right now does not have a family doctor. So, there's a lot of people who, they're basically going from walk-in clinic to walk-in clinic. And I try to avoid walk-in clinics like the plague for the simple reason that you're there for a very long time. You almost have to basically clear your calendar for a day. Now you can try getting there first thing in the morning, but people are now at the point where everybody does that, so there's always a big lineup even if you try. I'm not one to want to sit out overnight to wait for a walk-in clinic. So yeek. All right. Let's get back to the chat here for a minute before we go on to our next story. All right, Chad is in the house. Hello, Chad. Great to see you. Mr. Red Taco says, my worry with private is you're going to have more doctors leave there. Yeah, exactly. More doctors moving there. Hockey Nut says, Manulife makes more money in Asia than Canada. They do, and they just signed a big deal in China as well. So Manulife is, and really, it's interesting. I've been watching the Manulife stock this last week, and it's actually climbed quite high. It's gone up a couple of dollars since a month ago. So it's doing really well right now. So people who have Manulife in your portfolio, I imagine that's one of your stocks that it's definitely in the green. Chad has no family doctor, but I don't believe in Western medicine. Okay. Fair enough. Should be a 3-star medicine hospital. Yeah, I mean, and some people don't like Western medicine that much, and there's a lot of different. There's now naturopathy doctors you can get as well. So I don't know if that's kind of where you're going, Chad, but there's definitely different options out there, and 100% government. Okay, and that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, let's move on to the next our next little story here. The US GDP came out for Q4. Interestingly enough, so Q4 their GDP came in at 2.9%. So basically it rose 2.9%. So that's a thing when we're talking about recession. We're not getting those negative quarters that we thought we were going to be seeing. And it's really interesting. If you think about the GDP, consumer spending, it makes up roughly 68% of the GDP. In Q4 in the States, consumer spending was up 2.1%. Now that is down though, because in Q3 it was 2.3%. So we got a small trend down, but we're not getting those negative GDPs. So, and I know I'm now starting to hear different people talking about, well, maybe we won't get a recession. I still think we will. And I think part of the reason is it's like it's overdue. Right now, the labor market and the fact that there's so many people working is what's kind of working against a recession, because we still got all of those consumers out there spending money because people are making money. So we're going to need to see the layoffs probably increase before we see an official sort of on paper recession. So, and just to speak a little bit about layoffs. So we do have some layoffs that were announced. So the Hudson Bay Company is going to be laying off 2% of their workforce. Best Buy says they're going to lay off 700 employees, but they haven't really specified where. Now, Post Media. So Post Media, they're a big media group in Canada. They, for example, they own National Post and Financial Post. They're laying off 11% of their editorial staff. Now, Spotify has also said they're cutting 6% of their workforce. Now, not everybody is laying people off. All of the Canadian banks have pretty much said they have no plans for layoffs. Now, here's that thing. It has to get bad for the banks to start thinking about layoffs, because their employees are what are known as federally regulated employees. And what that means is they get extremely good severance packages. So that's one of the reasons that it's got to look like there's going to be some issues for a very long time for the bank to start thinking about laying off some of these people and paying out some of these really big severance packages. So that's going to be interesting. All right, let's just take a quick look and see what we got here in chat. So 100% money talks. Yeah, money always talks. It'll be a softer landing. I'm laid off too. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that you're laid off. That's not good. Hopefully, now there is a lot of jobs out there, but I know how much it sucks to go and get a job that's not in your field. But sometimes you do have to do what you have to do. But hopefully you can find something in your field, Chad. That's what I'm hoping for you, buddy. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. Now, there's some crypto news out there. So I did mention crypto is starting to do a little bit better, which is fantastic. It's good to see that. But we've got a little bit of stuff. And we've been talking a little bit about regulation. So the European Union this week, they've drafted up a new law that they're going to try to get. It hasn't been passed yet. It's still in the draft form. But basically, they want to make it a requirement that banks have to hold €1 of their own capital for every euro that they hold in crypto. And the idea is just to try to have something to offset that volatility in crypto and perhaps to bring a little bit more stability to the market. So we'll have to see how that ends up turning out. Meanwhile, I mean, Bitcoin has been doing pretty good this week. I think we've seen a little bit of growth. We've really, and this has impressed me, we've really seen a lot less volatility with Bitcoin, and that's a good sign for stability as in the future for Bitcoin. So, and we'll talk definitely as Bitcoin continues to, become more and more prominent, and as we start moving into regulation, you'll probably see that we'll start talking a bit more about Bitcoin as well, and that's kind of a nice thing. Now, and speaking of Bitcoin, Chad says he's going to focus on stocks and crypto, a special field office work. Yeah, that I don't know exactly what that is, but that is kind of interesting. And He's following it up with, so WEF, that's the World Economic Forum, adoption crypto to up to date their old SWIFT program that the 11,000 banks use. Yeah, so I mean, you're going to see, I think that to get crypto to the point where it's going to make the institutional investors happy, it's probably going to take a year or more. I'm going to guess probably 2 years before we have something good in place that will provide enough security that we can get some of that money bringing back in. So that's kind of a neat thing. Nigel is in the house. Hello from Chiang Mai. I think I said that right, hopefully. Let's see. Field of work correction. Oh, okay. There we go. And then, and HockeyNet says, ever wondered why Canada does not hold physical gold in their reserves? It makes no sense. Any thoughts? They say gold is on the rise. Yeah, and gold has been doing well. This week, gold has not done well. It has slipped a little bit this week, but gold overall has been doing really well. And I have a feeling as well that just pay attention to silver. I think silver is going to start rising a little bit too here, because I have heard whispers of a silver shortage. So that could be very interesting for silver. So let's keep our eyes open for that as well. All right, we got lots of stories today, which is great. Microsoft. So Microsoft had their earnings call this week, and the earnings were good. However, even though they beat expectations, they still experienced their slowest growth since about 2016. And the reason their stock went down after a good earnings call is that they pretty much told everybody in their earnings call that they're predicting a lot more slowing growth over the next few months. Now, there's a big issue with computers, and that is that a lot of people, when they had all that extra money during the pandemic with supports and everything else, well, a lot of people bought new computers. So there's not a lot of people out there in the market right now for a new computer. So companies, for example, Microsoft, even Apple, Intel for sure, they're running into some issues with, there just not being a big demand because people have already bought them. So it's probably going to take, I would say, a year or more before, the market starts crying out for a lot more computers, and before the consumers are at that point where they're going to start buying computers again. So, and here's a question. Did any of you guys buy a new computer over the pandemic? I bought two over the pandemic, a MacBook Pro and a Mac Studio. So be curious to know how many of you guys did the same thing. So that's kind of what they're saying with that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. And this year, I say, we've only just begun, Chad. We've only just begun this year. Physical, not paper. And yes, there is a silver shortage. Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. I whispered it and Chad spoke it. So silver might be something to look into, and here's this interesting thing. I'm going to put this out right now. So Thursday, I'm doing something a little different. I'm doing a 2-in-1. So a 2-in-1 deep dive basically means I'm going to pick one company to do, and I got my company. It is a Tesla. I'm going to do Tesla on my Thursday video, and then because I wanted to do, and now I need a Canadian company. So if you guys can throw some names up there of some companies you would like to see a deep dive on, and it doesn't have to be, it can be completely in any place whatsoever. I don't care what sector it's in, because it's not a battle. This is just going to be 2 deep dives in one video. So that's why I'm calling it a 2-for-1. So in chat, guys, if there's a company you want to see me do on Thursday, I'm going to do Tesla. If there's another company, throw the name up there, and then we'll just take a look and see what we get. And we'll see which one looks pretty interesting. So there, Nigel has mentioned Mag Silver. I'm not familiar with Mag Silver, but I might be getting familiar with Mag Silver. I have to see. I'll put that up so people can see. Nav Silver. And Chad says, I follow silver and stack it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so if silver's doing, I've been pretty bullish this year on materials right across the board. And Chad says, Tesla to the moon. So yeah, we're going to see what's going to go on there. Chad says CSU. Amanda says Magna. I think I've heard at least one person before say they wanted Magna. So that's a possibility. We'll check and we'll see how these names start flowing here, and we'll see if we can get a consensus. If you guys all can semi-agree, or Oh, and Diane says Artisia. I've never heard of them. And that's kind of cool, because if it's a company I haven't heard of, it might be interesting just to sort of jump in and see what's going on. So Enbridge, nice option. Other than the fact I've already done Enbridge, but they're probably due to get more attention. But or maybe do Tesla, stick to one. Oh, or maybe just do Tesla. Nah, I'm going to do two. I'm going to do two in this one. So it's going to be, otherwise 2 to 1 doesn't sound like a good idea. But, Rivian. It's kind of another electric car one. That would be more of a battle, though. And Chad says CSU. Jill says hit the like button. Yeah, just smash that like button. Turn it blue. All of that fun stuff. It does stuff for the algorithm. It makes more people see that we're live at this moment. And sometimes it brings some new folks in who get to experience me, Holy Banana Bread. All right, let's get to food. So I just want to quickly get that food story done here, because that was also one of our main stories. So some statistics came out. So in December, food prices were up 11% from last December. So that's pretty big. Now, even though, we're hearing that, inflation has rounded the corner, it's starting to come down, the reality of that is they're still expecting the prices of food to rise another 5 to 7% in 2023. So we're still looking at more food price increases. It's not going to be rising as fast, but it's still rising. Now, interestingly enough, Metro, they had an interesting report. They reported an 11% rise in profits, and then they raised their dividend by 11%. So if you have Metro, you're going to be getting a bigger dividend. Now, Metro did, when people said, wait a minute, food's going up and you guys are making all this money, Metro came out and said that those profits came from non-food related products. So that's what they said. Whether or not they're telling the truth, I do not know. But, that is what they did say. So that's going to be interesting. And one last little story I have here before we'll go straight to chat for the rest of the stream, is passports. The big backlog from passports has finally been worked through. So they say 98% of the backlog has been cleared. And that means that the wait times should be back to normal. So that's kind of interesting. All right. So we're still looking for that second company for me to do the deep dive on. Hockey Nut says another EV. I don't want to do an EV company. So that's why I'm not going to do Rivian. Only because doing two companies in the same sector is kind of the whole idea of the battles. So, we'll do that type of thing in a battle. What was this? So BABA has a great upside with economy starting to roll in China. There we go. And let's see, there is no other EV other than Tesla. That's good. And Hockey Nut agrees that one's kind of funny. So that's a funny thing. Which company should I do here? I've got to write these down and start taking a look. Because some of these sound pretty good, and that'll be kind of neat. So yeah, before I actually close the screen at the end of the day, I'm going to write down any of these ones, unless we can come up with a good consensus here. But wow, yeah, we got a few different companies here. Now, just give you an idea of what's coming up this week. So tomorrow, I know I do want to do that whole big the big 6 bank battle. I'm just not ready. I'm not feeling the energy for it this week. So I pushed that off at least a week. We're going to see, but that's kind of coming up it's coming up here eventually. So this week I wanted to do the two for one on Thursday. Tomorrow's video is going to be, there's been a lot of well, there's been a lot of new covered calls companies that have come out recently, so I wanted to just rank some of the top dividend picks from those covered calls. So we got covered calls coming tomorrow. It's going to be one of our list videos, and that's going to be fantastic. Those of you who saw the video yesterday on the Canada Pension Plan, next Saturday I'm actually going to do OAS, and that'll also include GIS, so Old Age Security and Guaranteed Income Supplement. So we're going to be doing that. They started kind of tied to the CPP a little bit. It's funny, when I first decided to do the CPP, it was basically because Nancy Danter asked me if I could do it. I said, sure, I'll do it. I was going to almost do all of it in one video. And then I realized, oh, you know what? This will turn into a really long video if I do it. But I will do OAS and GIS next Saturday. So there will be a Saturday video. And then I think the week after that is going to be is it that week? I think it is. I think the week after that is probably going to be, if I do the battle, it'll be that, because it's going to take up, the battle's like a 3-parter. So it'd be Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. But if I do it, what I'm looking at is I also have a video due for around the middle of February, the next exclusive video for the channel members. So I got to talk to them and find out what they want, so they can sort of give me a general idea of what they're wanting this time around. And of course, any of you who want to see those exclusive videos, just sign up for a channel membership, or maybe you'll get lucky when we give away the free one in February. So that'll be kind of cool. All right, let's see what else we got in here. But food and fuel is not inflation. Been watching Metro for the last week. Yeah, it really isn't. I mean, fuel is not controlled locally. I mean, it's a big thing. Now, here's that interesting thing too. If, let's say, for example, if the war in Ukraine actually were to come to an end, that will probably cause a little bit of a dump in the price of oil for a bit. So that could be very, very interesting. I know that, I know I've invested pretty heavily in, Tullamarine. Sometimes I can say that perfectly, and sometimes I'm like, I need an interpreter to say it for me. But I have invested a lot in Torlamine, and that might come down. But I think they've made so much money, and they're in such a great place that they've already set up the fact that they're going to be doing all these special dividends. So I'm still feeling pretty good about that. But I will probably be playing some inverse oil if we run into a situation where it looks like oil is going to tank big time, because I like making money. So there's nothing wrong with that. Let's see here. Polovia says, here's another interesting EV related company. Do your research on this one. I bought into it last summer. It's beginning to wake up. See Xro. That'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of different really good EV companies out there. So, oh, and Tim says Empire. So EMP.A. And let's see. Jill says, my next video is coming this week, probably later in the week. Yeah, absolutely. So Jill, I haven't put Jill on the schedule for her videos, because just where she's brand new to making videos, I would rather her, if it takes her 5 extra days to make a video, I would rather that than to sort of have her sort of force it out, give her the chance to improve and all of that fun stuff. Let's see. Chad says Tesla is 100% EV and not ICE and or hybrid. And Tim is looking forward to Jill's next video. I'm looking forward to it too. And then see where she goes after she's gotten through. I think the next one is on the cash balance sheet. So, or the cash flow, sorry. So once she gets through the cash flow, it'll be interesting to see where she's going to go next. Now, the CPP video I did, because that is a very relevant video to the whole concept of FIQ. I put that little ticket on it. So the little FIQ I put up there, and that's mostly going to be beginners or things that are more tutorial based. Those will go on to any videos of that nature. So that's kind of, to me, I find that kind of cool. It's just a way to link things and, sort of link mine and Jill's videos together in a little bit of a way. So that's kind of a cool thing. So yeah, so that's, I think, what I've got going on. I don't think I've got anything else going on. Those of you, by the way, who want to see more of me live, I am on the Danter Banter every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So if you're not subscribed to the Tim and Nancy Danter channel, and that's all you have to do, just search Tim and Nancy Danter on YouTube. It'll bring it up. Yeah, just throw a subscribe on them, and then just come over and check that out on Wednesday nights. Of course, I'm a side character, I guess, over there, where here I have to continually talk for a very long time. Let's see. Chad says oil will go up, I think, for another year, then tank. Yeah, I'm still seeing more oil going up. But here's the thing. Oil is very susceptible to world events right now. And if the war in Ukraine continues to drag on and on and on, I think that will probably be good overall for oil's price. It's probably not good for the environment and not good for, the world situation. I would rather see the war end, let oil do its little drop. I can play that. And then, because oil is one of these things, it's always going to come back until we eventually get to a point where, the reliance on oil is gone. But I don't think the world is anywhere near that point right now. Now, another interesting thing too, and I don't have a story on this, but we'll just talk about it briefly. India has been really, really, really setting themselves up to become an economic powerhouse. So it's really interesting. They're looking to try to turn their economy into, well, I'll give you an example. Apple is now looking to move 25% of their iPhone making production into India out of China because of all of the issues they've had with China. And India is right there ready to fill that. And India will be the most populous country this year. If they're not already there, they're really, really close to passing China. So that's going to be really, really interesting. Oh, and let's see. Perlovia says, how do you feel about REITs? They seem to be doing okay, even with higher interest rates. It seems, I guess maybe because they are into renting in most cases. So yeah, here's the thing. REITs they're used to interest rates. They're used to the mortgages, and they're going to pass on. I mean, obviously, when mortgages and things like that go up, the REITs will be passing that on to their tenants because, rent hikes, all of those things. It all kind of ties together. But REITs are still not a bad situation. It depends, of course, on the REIT. One of the things I do like is that you take Slate Grocery REIT, for example. Now they have U.S. tenants, but most of their properties are grocery store anchored malls. So what that means is, you've got that grocery store and you got maybe, 15 little stores all around it. That's the type of malls that they have. And those small little stores, they get all this extra traffic, which makes them more profitable because of people going to the grocery store, especially with the price of gas. People want to sort of do everything in one spot if they can. And that's one of the reasons that something like, for example, Slate Grocery has been doing really, really well. They've had some growth. Their dividend is nice and stable. A lot of their financials look really good. They've got a really good ROE, so return on equity. So that's one of the reasons that they're one of my favorite REITs for that reason alone. Now, I do want to do another REIT video soon. I almost thought about doing one. I was going to do one, not today, but for tomorrow. When I say today, because I film tomorrow's video today. I film it, I edit it, then I prepare for this, and then I do this. So Sunday for me is a full work day. Quite literally, when this ends, that's the end of my day. Because I actually just finished my editing on tomorrow's video. I still have to make the thumbnail, and I have to upload it to YouTube and everything, but it's looking good. But anyway, I do want to do another REIT video. The reason I moved the REIT video off the schedule for today was that with what happened with Tesla and YTSL and a few other REITs I'd noticed that have just come out. For example, Hamilton has a brand new ETF called HMAX, and that's in tomorrow's video. So check that out. And with these new REITs, what REITs? Sorry, with these new covered call ETFs, and covered call ETFs have been doing really, really well, and they're really, a lot of them are popping up. So we got that for tomorrow. Probably next week. I think next Monday. So a week from tomorrow. It depends. If I do the whole big giant battle, then it would be the week after. But I think the next non-battle thing is going to be a REIT video, because I think you guys are overdue for a REIT video, and I really want to sort of take a look and see how they're doing now, especially with the rate hikes coming up. Now, one of the nice things, at least in Canada, is we did have that 25 basis point rate hike this week, but the Bank of Canada has said that they're looking to put a pause on the rate increases, unless, of course, the situation changes. But as things look right now, it looks like in March, and I think it's March 8th that they meet, we won't be seeing a rate hike. So that's going to be kind of nice. So it'll give at least the Canadian market a chance to recover a bit. And hopefully America follows suit, because we have on February 1st, we got the Fed, and the Fed is going to definitely do a rate hike, probably 25 basis points, I think. Hopefully they might signal the same thing. If that were to happen, that would be really good for the market. And here's this thing. If we just can't get into that recession, and if we're all wrong, all of us thinking we're going into a recession, there's nothing to stop a bear market from coming. Now, don't get your hopes up, though. I mean, because I know some people are saying that the green that we're having and experiencing right now is kind of a little bit of an oasis, sort of like the calm before the storm. And that's a good possibility. And that's kind of the camp that I'm leaning towards. But I always like to sort of keep things open and sort of pay attention to things as they happen. All right. Now, and Chad was saying, yeah, China had their first year of the population dropping. And Chad also said, we will always use oil. Yes, India will be the next powerhouse. And, I missed this one. Bleak said, how about base? Base. Interesting. Brian says, Jill is a long-term investment. Okay. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Brian, but hey, why not? Chad says, Slate. A Hockey Nut SRU. Jill, I am planning on doing a spending challenge for February to not spend anything on discretionary items that is non-essential. Yes. Jill has been planning this to the point that we've actually been ordering things to make sure we have enough stuff to get through February. So that's kind of fun. Chad says Slate, Ryokan, CTC, REITs are good. Yeah, REITs are definitely doing okay, I think. And I'm looking forward to I'll put it in the schedule. I will just add that into the schedule because I think that's going to be really, really good. Paralova says, how many in here have the pleasure of owning AQN like I do? Been adding RNW to my portfolio to help with it. So that's a big question. Now, here's the thing. AQN, I know a lot of people were freaking out about the dividend cut. And I know my recent deep dive of AQN, I kind of suggested that a dividend cut was needed in that video, and they did do it. So they've been doing that. They've also been getting into more regulated power in the US. And these are all things to try to stabilize the company. And I think long-term, they're good moves that AQN is making. So if you're looking for short-term profits, if you're looking for a short-term fix with AQN, then you're in the wrong company. But if you're looking for something solid that's going to have a lot better returns long-term, then AQN is not a bad place. And the price that you're paying for them today is going to be a bit of a deal. Not tomorrow, but a later tomorrow. And Mike B says, what is your opinion of high dividend split funds selling at a big premium? Here's some split funds I think are good. So when you're looking at like a split core stock, but some of them as well, I find don't weather as well. Like if you take, for example, just trying to think which one I'm thinking of, like DF. They didn't do that well when the economy started breaking a little bit. And we ran into situations where, they ended up missing dividends. So for me, what I do with split funds, not all split funds, there's some that are really, really good. Like I love ENS. I have a lot of ENS. I'm okay with BK. I've got BK. So I find split funds like that have been really good. But some of the ones like DF, those are the ones that, even though they have some nice looking dividends, if they're going to be missing some dividends here and there, when all the crap hits the fan, those are the companies that I will just sort of step back from. In a bull market, though, oh yeah, in a bull market, I will definitely jump on to some of the split funds because their dividends become much more reliable. And so that's kind of the way I handle those split funds. Let's see. USA is 98%, 25 points, they say. Yeah, exactly. I own AQ, I think AQN, bought on the drop. ENS, yeah, ENS. I love ENS. Oh, sorry, I almost missed this one. Opinions of EQB. So EQ Bank, I like EQ Bank. I don't invest in them, and I really should. You know what? Here we go. Talamore, this is the other one. EQ Bank. So the 2-in-1 is going to be Tesla and EQ Bank, because this one actually really grabs me. Oh yeah, EQ Bank. That's a good idea. So this way here, you'll have a good idea on what I think about EQ Bank, at least as an investment. I do use them. Like they're my main bank, EQ Bank. So I just like that there's no fees. They're pretty easy to use. Now that they've come out with a, one of their little, it's not a debit card, but it's a prepaid card. That's fantastic as well. So yeah, EQ Bank, big fan. I use them. Yeah, I can't say enough about them. I also know they did have some good moves this year, I think, at least on the charts. So we'll do EQ Bank on a Thursday for you. And that makes it easy. And all right, so more ENS. And Chad likes EQ Bank too. EQB good. I like them, but weighted too heavy in finance. And that's what we're going to find out. We're going to take a look and see the nitty gritty on them. Now, here's the thing. Those of you guys who threw some good ones out there like Magna and things like that, I'm not going to ignore them. We got lots of, by doing the 2-for-1s, when I do some of the individual ones, you can still get 2 companies, because I did put a poll out. Now I asked about the battles, just sort of to touch on that. And kind of what I was thinking is that my thoughts were, how are people responding to the battles? Because some of the couple battles did good. A couple of battles like the Air Canada versus Transat, it just did dismal when it came to actual eyeballs on it. So I was kind of like, well, I don't know if the battles are 100% working. I don't think they should be in every week battle. I think that they should be more, I thought we should have a mixture. So I put a poll out on the community tab, and mixture won. So that is, I always thought when I put a poll out like that asking, what do you guys think I should do? I'm usually going to go with what you guys mostly think. And people think about a mixture. So I still wanted to give that extra bit. And that's why I came up with a 2-for-1. So, we're going to do 2-in-1 each time. And that'll also give me an opportunity, is if I have a company that I don't think people are going to be interested in a ton, I can grab that company. And it's usually not that the company's not interesting. It might be just that the company is smaller, or maybe they, they just don't have as much word of mouth. I can then take a company like that and put them with Tesla, for example. So in this place here, I love EQ Bank, but there's a lot of people who don't know about EQ Bank. So that's a nice little perfect fit there. So, and another one is this whole storage vault. So storage vault, I do want to do them. I have them written down because I know Tamalor has asked me a little bit about it. I haven't looked too deeply into them, so I don't want to give you an answer. But I really like to I'd really like to hit them, and I'll have to find somebody to team them up with on a 2-for-1. Now, our Sapper says, I actually did a solo deep dive on Intel. That was probably about a month and a half ago, I think. I have not touched Salesforce yet. SCHD versus Devo for US stocks. Yeah, it's one of those things. I haven't actually touched any US stocks lately, so that's one. Well, Tesla will be, but I'm also thinking maybe what I'm going to do with this REIT video is there's some really good REITs in the US. Maybe I can sort of do like 5 Canadian and 5 American. That might be an idea because I do like a good REIT. And I think there's a lot of good REITs in the US, and there's a lot of money to be made in the US market. So I might do that as well, just because that gives a little bit more exposure. Lots of interest in Well lately. Maybe a role in 2023 seems like a real strong company in the right market. Yes, I know I was looking at Well a couple of years ago, and I think they just weren't ready yet for investment. But I should look at them again. Maybe they are doing a little bit better. And Jay says, do a ETF's monthly dividend Canada. Ah, so yeah, that might be an interesting idea. Because I think Jay mentioned as well, like an ETF or at least a dividend of the month type idea. And I'm trying to figure out how to actually work that in. But look for a post, Jay, coming up probably this week at community. It's going to be for channel members. I want to find out exactly what you guys want me to do for February's exclusive video. So, something like this could be a thing. Like if you guys want me to do sort of a ETF monthly dividend Canada, maybe we could do something like that. But I'm going to leave it up to you guys. There's like about, I don't know how many of you there are now, like 15, something like that or more. So we'll give it to you guys to decide on what you want me to do for your guys' video because it's your video. So definitely let me know when I post this for you. Chad says SCHD all the way. There we go. And that's kind of interesting. This is one of the things I do like about this community. I got a few Americans in the community. And they're pretty awesome because sometimes they give me a little bit of insight that is like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Little things that, especially when they ask me a question and I have no idea what the answer is. So, and this is how I do it. Now, I don't know how other YouTubers do it. Somebody might be like, I don't know, or just give you a smile and not answer. I'm still going to answer, but I'm going to I've had times where I've gotten a question in the comments where I then had to go off and research for 20 minutes so I could come back and give a good answer. So that's kind of one of those things. I do that all the time. Well, not all the time. Most times, all the questions I get are pretty straightforward, but sometimes I'll get something that's a little bit left of center, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. This is an opportunity for me to learn a little bit right now and still get some information. I think yesterday was a good one. Yesterday in the comments, this is the question I got. It was in regards to CPP. Somebody had asked me because they apparently had been in Canada on a work visa. And so they had been paying into CPP on the work visa. And now they became an actual Canadian resident. Congratulations, if you're watching. They became a Canadian resident and they wanted to know if what they paid in on the work visa, if it got transferred over. And I'm like, I don't have a clue. So I went and I did a bunch of research and I found out that, yeah, it happens. So if you have a work visa and then you become a regular citizen, the CPP you paid in gets transferred over. So, I assumed it did, but I wasn't going to tell them that until I verified it. And I was able to verify it. It probably took me about 15 minutes. So that's kind of one of those interesting things. And Scott says, just plug the answer in Chat GPT for the answer. Well, here's the funny thing. I've actually found Chat GPT to give me a couple wrong answers so far. Because I was asking it yesterday when I was doing the CPP video, I was asking about the about how many years you're able to pull off as your drop years, and Chat GPT gave me some crazy answer that if you waited till 70, you could have like 14 years, and I'm like, no way. And so I did all the footwork at that point on that one, and I was like, yeah, Chat GPT, I don't know where you pulled that one from, but you're wrong on that one. So those of you who do use ChatGPT, double check some of the answers. A lot of times ChatGPT is great at summarizing stuff and rewriting stuff. But if you're pulling brand new information, just double check it, because you don't want to all of a sudden be giving incorrect information and having it come back on you because somebody's like, what the heck are you saying? That's wrong. So, and Joe, one of my favorite Americans, he says SCHD is very popular with dividend investors in the US. Huh. Oh, now I'm very intrigued on the SCHD because, I'm always looking to get some good American. I want to actually get a couple of good American dividend payers in my RRSP. So that is definitely one I'm going to look into for sure. How about some videos on undervalued stocks? Yeah, absolutely. I've done that before, but that was before. So yeah, I'm going to look at a whole bunch of different things. That's a beautiful thing, because sometimes I'm thinking, okay, like for tomorrow I was doing covered calls and I was like, well, it wasn't that long ago that I did a covered call video. Then I'm like, well, there's already been a bunch of new ones and things are always changing. So, sometimes it doesn't hurt. You can do pretty much the exact same video, but you pull all the data and you got some completely different stocks, because that's kind of the nice thing about the stock market being so dynamic, which is funny because sometimes I get hits on my like an ETF video I did back in 2021. And I'm thinking, well, I hope they're not relying on that information because, that was back before the bear market and things have changed. So it's just one of those things, but that's cool. And Hockey Nut holds SCHD, and so does Chad, I think, which is fantastic. All right, if you guys got any last minute questions, throw them up there, because we're getting towards the end here. And while you guys are thinking of your questions, I'm going to have a drink of cherry bubbly, a very good water, not sponsored, by the way. I just like the water. It's just funny. I was holding it up off screen, didn't even realize it. Like, wow, that really was like, what the hell is she talking about? I have to come up this way. Cherry bubbly. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of what happens on a Sunday afternoon. And that's kind of what happens on a live stream, right? Things just go absolutely wrong. Let's see here. But if you wait until the age of 70 to collect, is it not a 42% increase? It is a 42% increase. And here's the thing, that 42% increase is there for, well, the rest of your life. So here's what I say, and this is my philosophy on CPP, is that if you have a healthy, if you're fairly healthy and people in your house live to be, in the late 80s, or some of them are going into the 90s, you absolutely probably want to choose 70. But there are some other reasons. There are some people who are sitting down saying, you know what? I just want it at 60 because I can invest it and I can pull back a return bigger than the increase. So if you think you can do that, by all means do that. But there's all kinds of factors that you're going to take into effect. Another thing too, and this is kind of one of these things, if your spouse or your common law partner, if they don't work and they do rely on you, the later you take it, that means the more they're going to get, because when they get the survivor, because of the whole survivor issue. So there are a few different things that you can definitely do. All right. And Mike says, what is the difference between a discounted and a big premium split fund? Is there an advantage? And that to me is much more situational. I don't have a lot of information on a discounted and a big premium split fund, but here's what I will do, Mike. I think it's almost time to do another split fund, and I'll look at that and I'll break that down for you in that as well. Vic is in the house. Vic says, hi. Vic, you come in the dying seconds. Holy banana bread. But we've already gone 10 minutes beyond what I normally do. So that's kind of cool. At least we got to say hi, which is great. All right. So this is our dying minutes here. If anybody has something positive they want to sort of drop in the chat that I can leave as our end message, just like a GDV. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So yeah, as I said, this week we got a lot of stuff coming up. So remember, tomorrow's that video, and Wednesday over on the Danters channel. Thursday, we got our other thing. So our 2-for-1. So Tesla and EQ Bank. And Saturday, we'll be back with that OAS GIS video. And we'll be back here Sunday. And we'll do this all over again. And we'll know next week on Sunday if we're going to be doing the giant battle the following week. We might be, but I have to see. All right. And Scott says, have a great weekend, everyone. And I will hit Tim as well. Have a great evening. Hit that like button. Thank you, guys. Love you guys. This is you guys are a great community. So we'll see you guys again soon. And enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everybody.